in all talk radio. I'm Dr. Dave Janda, broadcasting from our ancillary bunker linked to our main freedom bunker in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're here for you every Sunday afternoon without fail. We are always here with information you'll never get from any other source, but it doesn't start and stop on Sunday afternoons. When that red on-air light goes off at our Freedom Bunker here at Wham Talk 1600 Studios on Sunday afternoon, the red on-air light goes on at davejanda.com for the next 7 days. We provide information continuously. At a minimum, go to davejanda.com. We have our news ticker that is unique to davejanda.com of news that you're not going to get from other sources. It's 24/7. Our IT team never sleeps. It's always providing information to you. Plus, we do another 4 to 5 video format shows exclusively for our subscribers at davejanda.com. Content I cannot discuss on the radio because of the deep state choke points that are in the FCC that would shut Wham down on the content I present behind our paywall for a mere 30 cents a day, $9 a month. In addition, I can't talk about that content on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it because, again, the deep state choke points. This is why davejanda.com is so critical to your future. We provide information to put you months, years, and in some cases, over a decade ahead of the curve so you can pre-position yourself. You see, folks, every week in our operating room, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our community, and our country. And we bring to our operating room information and guests the bought off lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit into their preconceived, politically correct, bought off agenda, or because, folks, they're petrified. They are petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. And that is what we do. We tell you what maybe you might not want to hear, but it's what you need to know. And we focus on your freedom, your political, your economic, your financial, and your health care freedom. Now, as an added benefit for our subscribers, in addition to the 4 to 5 other video format shows, when our on-air light goes off this afternoon, we do an extra segment or two for our subscribers, our Operation Freedom Overtime segment, which will be posted on our website. Derek, my wingman, will have our entire show for today posted for our subscribers, another benefit of our subscription service, at davejanda.com by 5 p.m. In addition to the Operation Freedom Overtime segment, and our guest in our overtime segment today is going to be Major General Paul Vallely, the architect, actually, of the offensive and defensive operations on our border. Oh yeah, you're never going to see this in the bought off lamestream fake media. No, and in addition, as a special event presentation for our subscribers, we did an exclusive interview with General Michael Flynn. It's on our website for subscribers. Again, you just folks, you cannot afford not to be a subscriber. General Flynn goes into a discussion that nobody else has asked him questions about, but I did, about the Epstein files and what's really going on. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, you're not going to hear anybody discuss this in the bought off lamestream fake media. And frankly, as he mentioned to me, people in the independent media don't ask me questions like you do, Dave. Right. Because our goal is no matter who you are, if you're putting people in harm's way, particularly children, we're going to out you. We're going to identify you, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you're appropriately prosecuted. As we've outlined to you folks, we're very concerned about what's happening in the world on a financial basis and an economic basis. Because you see, they can try to do their jabs or their bioweapons, and it's going to adversely affect, well, billions of people. But you see, our adversaries in whatever you want to call it, the deep state or the globalist syndicate, the shadow government, whatever, around the world, their goal is to adversely affect every human being that is not part of their 0.001% that they call the elite, that we call the scum. And see, the biggest bang for the buck they can get for harming, injuring, and killing as many of us that aren't in the 0.0001% is to take down the financial system worldwide. And that's what they're in the process of doing. Luckily for us, we have with us today Adriana Reed. Adriana has done everything in her power, as the folks that she works with at the Camino Company, to build you and physically try to place you in a financial lifeboat to protect you for when this system completely comes down and implodes. And we're very close to that, folks. Oh, you can buy all the BS on CNBS and Reuters and Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal and Forbes and whatever about how everything's all hunky dory. But they're setting you up because they're part of the syndicate. And fortunately for us, we have Adriana. For those of you not familiar with Adriana Reed, she has been with the Camino Company, CAMINO, CaminoCompany.com, since 2011 as a trader. Adriana has distinguished herself as one of not just one of the principals in the Camino Company, but one of the most honest and knowledgeable people in the financial world, in particular in the precious metals arena. It's my privilege, pleasure, and honor to welcome back Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
So, Adriana, am I off in my assessment and statement that the economy in the United States and around the world is not as hunky-dory as everybody is pushing? And in the process, by conning people into everything's fine, they prevent them from taking the necessary steps to protect themselves. Am I being hyperbolic? Am I peddling fear porn when I say that?
No, absolutely not. And the truth of the matter is, what I do for a living, I tell people that gold and silver is kind of the truth serum. And the numbers that we're seeing in our industry are really not lying to anybody.
Adriana, we just had the jobs report, which always is a problem as
Right.
far as the reliability of it. They were predicting that 75,000 new jobs would be created in this past month. It came in at 22,000. Even that 22,000 is bogus because to get to the plus 22,000, which was a third of what it was supposed to be, they added in a fake 90,000 jobs through the birth death model. And in fact, I dug through the numbers and actually found that part-time jobs increased by 597,000 jobs part-time, with people holding multiple part-time jobs just to get through. But full-time jobs decreased by 357,000 jobs, and over 443,000 Americans had to hold multiple jobs to try to get by. Adriana, this is not the definition of a booming economy, is it?
No, by any means. And so what we have to do is we have to really dig down to the root of what's really genuinely going on. So right now, as we saw, Trump had a meeting with a lot of tech guys, and I am out here in Silicon Valley. I'm in the mecca of tech, and you and I had a conversation this week. We saw over 80,000 people laid off in our area alone because of AI. So we're starting to see an uptick in AI. There's a lot of talk of tech. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to see a new wave of change in America as it goes as far as jobs go, where we're going to see what a robot is capable of doing. I've seen it out here personally as far as jobs getting taken over. Salesforce was one of them. Facebook was one of the main companies that had some layoffs. Microsoft had layoffs. So we're seeing it personally here as AI is taking over these companies. The other factor into all of this, too, is we're talking about a large group of people who their billionaire status is all they genuinely care about. They don't care about the well-being of the worker or the people. And so when they give part-time jobs, they don't have to cover health care. They don't have to cover a lot of different aspects that need to come with payouts as far as, a full-time worker. And so that's where you're seeing, for example, Jeff Bezos has a lot of contract workers. They don't work for Amazon. They work as contractors for Amazon, and therefore he doesn't have to take care of the employees themselves. So what we're experiencing more than ever, in my personal opinion, is I am a true capitalist, but also we have to have a morality in the country when it comes to capitalism and
Mhm.
making sure that we are creating a society that is uplifting the middle class. And we're not seeing that right now. And so when you start to see that, you see the wealth gap grow significantly, where you also see the talk of the stock market raising the way it is. But in reality, it's less than 10% of the country is actually genuinely invested in stocks. As far as how much money is going into that, it really pertains to the billionaires and the soon to be trillionaires if inflation keeps going the way it is. So I'm really, on the basis that we're heading into a severe stagflationary period where,
Mhm.
the dollar is still getting printed. We have a lot of, spending going on right now as it is, and the government is attempting to decrease spending. But when you're talking about offsetting a $38 trillion debt, when you talk about billions being cut off of our spending, you can say it's a good place to start, but it's really just, it's not anything compared to what the numbers that we're talking about when we talk about trillions of dollars.
Folks, we're speaking with Adriana Reed from the Camino, Camino, CaminoCompany.com. Adriana, one of the issues you pointed out is our ever enlarging, significantly skyrocketing
Yeah,
debt, DEBT.
yeah,
So this week, President Trump renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, right?
hmm,
Because,
yeah,
he felt that it was misnamed. Okay, fair enough. Well, since we're, as you mentioned, close to $38 trillion in debt now, and if you add the unfunded liabilities and mandates, we're about a couple hundred trillion. If he's
yeah.
going to be doing that, maybe he should rename the Department of the Treasury to the Department of Debt, right? Because it's the debt that is in the process of not just bringing down the United States. If we look at Japan and Germany and Spain and England just this past week, debt is exploding and their debt markets are imploding, which
They are.
will again hasten this financial reset takedown that's been in the cards. Am I reading this wrong?
No, it's absolutely true. And I think one of the things, a lot of people are talking about concerns over World War III and what that would look like if that did come on our shores. But, one of the things that my major concern is we're talking about economic warfare because over time, the U.S. has established that we are a global economy, and therefore we put a lot of power into other countries' hands by allowing them to buy our debt and move and shake in a necessary way pertaining to our bonds when we have our, an auction for our bonds so that we can spend more money frivolously. The issue that I have is that, my main concern for America is that the takedown will not be a bomb coming our way. It's going to be an economic bomb coming our
Yeah,
way. And
right.
if you can devalue the currency and you
Mhm.
can send us into an economic turmoil while decreasing the value of the dollar, which was exactly what you're talking about, which we saw heavily this week. And that's why we saw gold hit an all-time high and silver is now officially over $41. We're really starting to see that happen. And, these countries are moving much more methodically than we think. And we have to be very aware of that, especially China. They are kind of playing chess and we have to make sure that we hold them off as far as how all this pertains to our economic growth and especially as we start to put tariffs on countries that own our debt. I think that also we need to be aware of how we handle that situation as well. Especially in my personal opinion, I think we need to establish a greater infrastructure in the United States before we start going after other countries and bringing our corporations home.
Adriana, there have been some other significant developments. You mentioned gold hit an all-time high this week.
Hmm.
Silver is pushing into that category, soon to
Yeah.
be the $50 range.
Yep.
Many people are predicting much higher prices for gold and silver in the coming months and years. But there were a couple other developments. The Department of Interior did something for the first time they've never done before, and that is they listed silver as a critical mineral. And
Yeah.
a number of people said, so, well, that really doesn't make a big difference. And a really good financial analyst by the name of Vince Lancy said the following: this designation makes silver eligible for strategic stockpiling. Government entities and private actors anticipating higher official demand will likely increase purchases in advance. And this stockpiling dynamic has historically been a strong driver of price when applied to other minerals that have now been classified as being critical, end quote.
Hmm.
There's a lot going on. We've seen huge purchases by China,
Yeah.
Russia, Indonesia, India of gold, physical gold, and physical silver. And we've also seen a huge push to establish the Shanghai Exchange as the
Hmm.
physical exchange for metals. Adriana, when people talk about a reset,
Yeah.
it could well be that the reset is going to be based rather than on US dollars, but on physical gold and physical silver. Am I reading the tea leaves wrong?
No, not at all. So one of the things I want everyone to realize when it pertains to silver, and I've had this conversation for the past 2 years with people, when it was recategorized into a mineral, what you need to realize is that we're talking about the ability of its conductivity. So we saw this with platinum as platinum took a huge dive below gold. We were really able to break it down. Was platinum was a major it was used in catalytic converters and it had a lot of conductivity, and that's where it was very valuable and it pertained to that value. By this reclassification, one of the things that I want you guys to realize is that the inclusion into the critical minerals list, in essence, is basically saying that they're going to use it to advance technology. And so that pertains to the well being of most countries when we talk about technology, because we are, I think, heading into a new era of technology in general, like I said, with AI and different things. And so I do believe that once they go heavy into this situation where they put themselves in the position to put silver at such a high value, that's where the reset's going to come, is that the accumulation by countries is that they are, always staying, years ahead of everybody. And, the writing's always on the wall. You and I have had that conversation multiple times about, when they tell you, they leave a little breadcrumb for us to say, I told you so, you didn't listen, I said it was going to happen. In essence, they're basically telling us that the reset is going to come, and it will be pertaining very heavily to metals as far as gold and silver goes. And, you can, in essence, create your own banking system, your own lifeboat, and you can survive what they're going to put us through, because I think the turmoil that we're about to experience will become significant. It's just a matter of time.
And when folks speak with their financial advisor, Adriana, all too often I'm given feedback through emails, people saying, well, they told me, well, if I really wanted exposure to gold and silver, I should just buy paper assets. Well, sure, that way the account stays with the broker and they get paid on assets under management. But and realistically, these people are told, well, it's just too difficult to buy and sell gold and physical silver. Adriana, folks that come, you folks have make it incredibly transparent, incredibly easy, and there's a sense of well-being you get when you purchase physical gold and physical silver. So educate our listeners. Where are we with supply? Because we're hitting new highs, right?
Yeah,
As you mentioned.
right, right.
So where are we with supply? Where are we with demand? And take people through the process.
So we're kind of experiencing it's a multifaceted things going on right now, and as far as our industry goes. So with the all-time highs, we are experiencing a very large amount of purchases that are really coming in because people are starting to kind of wake up to the reality of the situation. So we are experiencing a lot of gold purchases. We are experiencing a lot of silver purchases. As far as things go, supply is still good. And here's where I can also tell you that the economic shift is happening as well, is because we're also seeing individuals have to sell in order to cover their lifestyles, and when I say lifestyles, pay the mortgage,
Yeah.
food, different
Property
things like that.
taxes.
That is
Yeah.
starting to pick up as well, where they are tapping into the funds that they never wanted to tap into, but they have no choice. And so I have people who walk into the office every day, and recently, on foot, we're talking about, I average about 5 people in the office at all times throughout the day. Kyle and I actually have been joking that we are skipping lunch because we have things to do. So, we're working on overdrive due to demand, but also unfortunately seeing people where we have a conversation in person where I'll assess what they bring in, and I'll do my best to convince them not to sell. But the response is we have to make a payment on this, and so that's where I am seeing this economic turn start to happen. As far as everything else goes, buying and selling, it's very simple to do. And one of the things that also I don't put it past anybody that, you think that the cloud or AI or the grid is safe. It is not a safe place for us to store any of our wealth anymore. It puts a lot of power into other people's hands. And that's not something that I ever want to do. I want to remain as self-sufficient as possible. And when you take on physical assets, you are in the best position to be self-sufficient. And if the grid goes down, everybody is going to be, wishing that they had bought physical assets. And I don't unfortunately put it past those circumstances happening in the next couple of years with, like I said, the way AI is picking up. I think there's going to be an overwhelming amount of electricity and different things that are going to go on the grid that will take down your ETFs at certain times. And I want everyone to be prepared for what that looks like. And having physical assets is the way to go. As far as it goes for your portfolio, I really am adamant. I think that there's a lot of growth for gold as well. So I'm not, necessarily tapped out as we reach all-time highs. Like I said, I think there's still more to come. So it's a great way to put a large amount of wealth into something that you don't have to be concerned about it having, significant drops anytime soon. I think we'll have, kind of ups and downs as there's going to be huge volatility in the markets as we move forward. And then silver. Silver is going to cover all types of grounds. We'll see a long-term hold will be a great way to hold wealth. When I really explain it to everyone, just remember that our debt growth from 2000, silver was at $2 an ounce in 2001, and now we're experiencing, $41, which, that's up 2,000% to 200% as we see it. So, it's significant percentage growth, and I think there's tons of potential there. So it's 20 times that. But, silver also has the potential that if the grid or anything does go down and you had to barter with it, I call it the wild, wild west scenario. That is going to be what you're going to need at the end of the day to function in this country if we go through anything that's significant. So, preparation is key now. I always tell people we prepare for the worst and pray to God that he serves us and, gets us through all of this, as peacefully as possible. But we can't guarantee that.
No, we can't. And it's interesting because this past week there was a huge meeting in China with the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, the SCO, with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and Modi from Italy and
Yeah.
about 100 other countries. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, right after that meeting concluded, there was all this buzz about physical precious metals. And in
Yes,
fact,
there were.
Boulay, right, the head in El Salvador, who's been Mr. Crypto, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, all of a sudden makes a huge purchase in precious metals and talks about how their government was going to keep buying precious metals.